The Jordan Peterson phenomenon is I think multidimensional. So we can. I don't know if I can invent a taxonomy live on your show right now, but as a preliminary taxonomy, I'd say there was his stance about free speech in the legislation being passed in Canada, and so there was a kind of a libertarian free speech kind of interest in him. There was also the crisis of masculinity talk, which is different. That he was speaking into the angst and the drifting in single young men in America, and the attraction there, and obviously the reactive discourses to both of those. People upset with him about those stances. But then the third thing was his talks on the Bible that he did, where he packed out a theater in his town for these 2-hour rambles about scripture.
This is Bible lectureships gone viral in the culture.
Right. And so that's where he came onto my radar screen, because people were listening to these Bible lectures and he's reading the scripture with a Jungian lens. And so when they meet me, they're like, hey, Christian psychologist, what do you think about Jordan Peterson? And mainly they're thinking about his lectures on the Bible, not the free speech or the crisis of masculinity stuff, which I'm also interested in. But I was being asked to comment on. So I needed to listen to them. So I would listen to them and was fascinated by all of that. But mainly I was really impressed with, and I think this is where like Bishop Robert Barron was also impressed with Jordan Peterson as well. I was like, here's a guy, like churches are dying. And like people won't cross the street to listen to a pastor speak for 20 minutes. And yet they'll go to a theater at night and listen to him talk for 2 hours about scripture. So I was like, well, what is it about what he's doing that is so compelling? Because if you listen to the lectures, it's not like they're rhetorical. They're not cleaned up or polished. It's you're watching a guy almost, and there's a whole other dynamic here to talk about. Like when you watch Jordan Peterson talk, you get the sense that he is in the grip of some, like he's really in front of you, wrestling live and in the moment, a life or death dilemma. And he describes the world in kind of black and white, life or death. Like things matter when you're listening to Jordan Peterson. Everything's at stake. He's playing so the way I described it in my series, he's like kind of playing a really high stakes game. So he's not giving you like tips on how to live. He's like wrestling for your soul, right? He's like, Jacob wrestling with the angel through the night. And so when you listen to those lectures, that's what you get, right? You hear this guy kind of thinking, and he chases thoughts, and he comes back, and then people would come back for more of it, more and more of it. So I was like, well, what's he doing? What's the magic there that we can learn from as the church about how to get people to listen to scripture, especially young men? What are they hearing in his message? And so that's what I did in the series. I grabbed Maps of Meaning because that's the book that really gets into his existential philosophy and how he reads myth, to kind of get to the Rosetta Stone of his Jungian take, and just do a long, slow, series on that, and embrace what I like, and also be kind of a little critical of what I see could be improved or challenged.
I think that's exactly right. And Maps of Meaning is not a terribly accessible book to get into. He talks about having gone over and over and over this. I thought, yeah, it looks like it. This is a tortured book.
It's messy.
Yeah, it's very messy. And then of course 12 Rules is a very different kind of book.
Yeah.
And any thoughts? Have you continued to follow Jordan's trajectory at all, or
not recently. I don't say I follow him like real closely. Like I said, it was mainly that big deep dive, so that I could kind of have a better sense of what he was up to scripturally. So I don't follow him real closely or whatever. But again, I really admire what he did there in those lectures. And for example, I had the other day, there was a science professor that approached me, and they said, hey, because of my deconstruction phase of my life in the early days of the blog, I am kind of known as like the pastor for the atheists and the agnostics at our school and our faith community. So if anybody has a faith problem, it's like, go talk to Richard, because he deconstructed and he's not going to be alarmist about it. And so I get a lot of referrals. And so this professor came to me and said, I got a student, really smart, young man, sciencey, really left brain kind of guy, logical, maybe overly analytical. But he grew up fundamentalist, and he came to ACU, Church of Christ School. But now he feels like he's an atheist now, and he feels lied to. He feels like he was, his Christian upbringing was like an education into the reality of the tooth fairy. And so he's mad. It's not just that he just doesn't believe. He's angry. What would be your recommendation to help him? And I said, if anybody can get a young, angry science major, male science major, to take scripture seriously, I said, it's Jordan Peterson. Yeah. Have him listen to the Bible lectures, and see what you think. And to me, I just think, right, he's a resource for a certain pastoral group, young men who are kind of rethinking religion and how religion can be a powerful force in their lives in a way that I've not seen many churches be able to speak to.
Yep.